Aloha, welcome to the Live Ukulele podcast. My name is Brad Bordessa. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we are going to run down a bunch of things going on here at Live Ukulele headquarters, and then talk about character and style, something that came into my head while driving home from a gig this morning. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite tea or beverage, and let's get cooking on the Live Ukulele podcast. So I know this episode is late. I was trying to not have it be late, but the episode that I was hoping to do has ended up taking more time than I expected it to. I've already done 2 passes on it and I'm not happy with it. I'll go back and do a 3rd one or a 4th one if I have to, and it's probably going to end up being for next season. But hopefully it'll be interesting. It's a subject that I'm really passionate about and I think is important to bring to you folks. But it's just not coming together yet, and it's something that needs to be said well in order to land right. So I want to make sure to get it right. And so this one is just kind of wrapping up the season with some updates, letting you folks know what's going on and sharing a thought that I had. So what's been going on? I've been really cranking on work for Live Ukulele and my teaching materials. Took a vacation to the East Coast with my partner to go to her sister's wedding and had a lovely time. Got to see New York City and get into Philadelphia and just see the countryside in New Jersey. And it was super beautiful, super lovely. I had a wonderful time and I'm all charged up and ready to rock and roll again. Sometimes you just need a little break. I didn't even take an ukulele. I was just like, I'm out. I'm full tune out mode for this little holiday, and we're just going to explore and hang out, and it was great. So now that I'm back, I got through a rework, edit, update of step-by-step single string ukulele picking. This has been my best-selling ebook over the years, and it seemed like it was just time to kind of refresh it, add a couple new songs, and breathe some new life into it. So it has 2 new songs now, Jingle Bells and Bella Ciao, and it's expanded and, edited in some places, expanded in others. I found a lot of things that were poorly presented that I felt like I could explain better and rewrite and make more concise and obvious what I mean. Updated some pictures so that the visuals are a little nicer to look at, and just generally improved it. So if you are an owner of step-by-step single string ukulele picking, you can log into your account on Live Ukulele and download the new version. If you haven't purchased step-by-step yet, it's $9, and it is an introduction to picking melodies on the ukulele. And the premise of the whole thing is playing a melody up and down a single string, because a lot of times the hardest part of playing and picking on the ukulele is managing which string you're on. If you have to switch between the strings, that really jumps the difficulty up a lot. So by keeping everything linear, you're just paying attention to which fret you're pressing on. So you can think about things like shifts and which fingers to use for which notes. And it really forces you to, first of all, get up the fretboard to places that most people don't play, because that's the only place you have to get higher notes that are further, interval-wise further away from the lower notes. The lowest you can play is the open string, and the highest you can play is, up off the fretboard. But I really like this for beginners because it puts them on a more focused track. You have to do things a certain way, so you have less to think about. You just have to execute along that single string, and it's been really appreciated. People seem to like the content and like the approach and feel that it's useful and interesting. And so when I sent out emails about version 2.0 of the ebook, I had a number of people reach out and say, how does this work for baritone? Can it be used for baritone? And the answer was, yes, it can be used for baritone if you just follow the fret numbers. Everything is the same distance regardless of whether you're playing on the single string of an ukulele or the single string of a banjo or the single string of a guitar. The melodies will sound nice, and it will sound like a melody if you play it on any string. You can play it on a clothesline. The difference is in which notes are actually sounding, right? So it's a transposition thing. But several people were asking, how does this work on baritone? So I was like, oh, well, it's near the top of my list. And near the top of my list is close enough to be worked on any given day. So I spent a couple days ago, I went through the whole new document and transposed everything for baritone, reworked all the tabs so that now they represent baritone tuning. So everything, most of the songs in Step by Step are from the A string on a standard tuned ukulele. So closest string to the floor, that's the easiest one to get your hand to. So physically easiest to play. So going from the A string, in the standard version, everything is now transposed so that the notes read correctly in the standard notation and then all the instructions for the E string. So now there's a baritone version that you can check out. If that's of interest, you can go to liveukulele.com/store and click over to the step-by-step ebook, and then you'll see the version option where you can choose the GCEA standard version or the new orange baritone version. So that's exciting. A fairly easy transposition to get things up to speed so that baritone players can now benefit from this approach. I proofed it as best as I could, but if you find anything that seems off from the conversion, just reach out, let me know, and I'll get a fix out there ASAP. It's great having a large ebook like that because it's a big resource, but it also takes a long time to read through and make sure everything is in order. And sometimes I miss things. So your feedback is appreciated. Let me know what you think. And just if you have any general thoughts about the ebook, let me know that as well. But check that out. I'm calling it Step by Step Single String Baritone Picking to kind of differentiate it from single string ukulele picking. I don't know if that's enough to be super obvious, but I made the cover a little different and it has a different color. So the colors, if anything, should be pretty obvious for most folks. Next up, I've been thinking about bringing a membership more into focus on Live Ukulele. There has been a supporting membership there for a while, and everybody who is a supporting member, I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. But thinking of bringing just a general membership that gives you access to material that is published as part of the membership has been on my mind and on my radar. And so I've kind of rebranded the supporting membership. If you're already a supporting member, you're now just a member, and members have access currently to, there's some fun kind of exclusive stuff. There's like a photo gallery of old photos of me with different ukulele players and musicians. And there's some workshop videos from when I taught in Germany. And one of the main things that's available on the membership right now is a strumming crash course, which is it's like half an hour worth of instruction on the basic framework of how to strum, just and getting your strum in time. These were kind of the intro videos for the Groove Ukulele ebook when I released that. And so I've brought them back. They're not available anywhere else, but they are available for members, and you can learn just how to get your strumming in time with the music, walk through some examples, and that is a interesting way to work on some strumming material. But on kind of just a musician front, my band Kingside is on the verge of releasing our EP. We have our first single scheduled for release on December 9th, I believe. So that is moving forward, and we're going to be releasing music into the wild, which means that the mixes are done. I was in charge of mixing the album, and I mixed it up. It has been sent to mastering. We've got the masters back. It sounds even better than it did when it went out. That's sort of the magic of mastering is, people think about the mixer doing all the work and getting the instruments balanced, and you equalize everything so it works together. But then usually the next step is to send the song off to mastering, where somebody in a expensive studio that's very well sound treated and somebody who masters full time will lend their more professional ears to the project and make final adjustments and bring it up to volume so that it's, modern and competitive, and all of the songs fit together volume-wise and tone-wise. But anyways, got the masters back, and we've got things starting to get our marketing together to schedule those songs out. But having the masters back means that I'm able to start work on my next project, which I've been excited about for a while, which is rock ukulele. And so the EP is 4 songs, and in rock ukulele, it's not done yet, but I'm working on it. I'm going to be teaching these 4 songs and how to play these 4 songs and kind of the philosophy behind the songs. Because Kingside is my band. I play ukulele in this band, and the ukulele is not an afterthought, right? I am a member of the band, and when we bring a song to the band, we think about how we're going to break it up and who's going to play what. And in this case, these 4 songs are original songs, so there was no ukulele part. So I was able to just make my part so that it would fit with the band. So I thought that that would be an interesting approach for a rock ukulele course, instead of just fighting to play Crazy Train or fighting to play a Nirvana song. Like, you don't have to fight because these parts were created for ukulele. Like, I wrote them to work. And so I think it'll be an interesting look at, maybe it's not going to be appealing for everybody because some people just want to plug their ukulele into a cheap amp and turn the distortion up and make some noise. And that's fine. That's great. It's fun for a while. But to me, when I got over that and realized, like, okay, I'm not going to really do that in this band. I mean, there are times when I'll turn on a distortion, but it's for a specific purpose. But for the most part in the band, I'm just playing ukulele, and it just sounds like an ukulele. And so in order to make it work, we have to collaborate so that there's space for the ukulele to come through. And then on my side, I write the parts so that, the ukulele has a signature something to contribute. And a lot of people say that, oh, it's really cool to have the ukulele in there in that way, because you don't see that very often in that context. So that's going to be called rock ukulele. And I'm planning at this point on releasing the rock ukulele content onto the membership. So if you're a member, you will automatically get access to rock ukulele. But if you're not a member, that is how you will get access to it. So if you want to get on top of that, you can sign up. The membership's $10 and $10 every month, and you'll unlock access to the aforementioned things and rock ukulele when it comes out. But lots of behind the scenes coding stuff to try and make that work and to streamline things so that it's hopefully enjoyable and unnoticeable on your side. It just kind of works, and you just see the new thing when it shows up in the membership. But that is not the easiest thing to do with the software I'm using. It's kind of annoying, but it's a limitation. And while I'm not a big fan of AI or what it holds for artistry and writing and things, it is incredibly helpful with coding stuff, which is already computers talking to each other. So I don't feel so bad using it to generate code to help get around some of these problems. So me and ChatGPT have been cranking on getting the website streamlined so that this membership thing will work smoothly and seamlessly. Keep an eye out for that. And then finally, if you're subscribed on YouTube, you've probably seen a couple of them come through, but I have released a couple of melody playthroughs for the step-by-step, from the step-by-step book, and playing with a new camera setup. I finally got an HDMI cable and a capture card so I can use my actual camera and nice lens and record it to the computer and use that for my YouTube capture setup, which should make it easier to get on making some YouTube videos into the future. But all good things. I am pumped on trying to plow forward to the next level of ukulele learning and reaching more people and trying to bring more people into the fold and share with them what Live Ukulele can offer. So this is the final episode in season 6 of the podcast. I'm going to be taking the rest of November and December off, so there won't be any more episodes until the beginning of January, where we will kick off season 7. And I have to decide what my editorial calendar is going to look like for that. You probably noticed, maybe if you're one of those, you might have noticed that I've missed some deadlines this season for the podcast for the first time, and I missed more of them than I would like. So it's starting to feel like currently the every other week is a little too much, and that it's time to kind of pull things back. I'd rather pull things back and release fewer episodes per season, but keep the consistency and the quality high. So might be thinking about scaling back and doing just one episode a month or one episode a quarter or something like that. So I have, I'm not feeling like I'm scrambling to get 2 episodes out every single month. So stay tuned for what that's going to look like. I'll think about it during the break and try and decide what that is going to, what's going to fit best for the future. But that's the plan. I'll see you guys on the other side in January on the first Saturday. But we're still here. We're still in this last episode. And I have one more thought to share with you folks, unless more come into my head while I'm talking. But I was driving home from a gig this morning. I played at the Waimea Town Market with Kioki Kahumoku, Stan Melemai, and Larry Miller. I played steel guitar for them. And just, casual farmer's market outside in a pop-up tent kind of thing. It was lovely, kind of slow season, so there weren't too many people there. But nice to play some steel guitar for the first time in a couple months. And on the way home, I was listening to the radio because somehow I lost the USB drive I keep my music on for my car. I was listening to the radio and somebody came on the only stations that catch once you get a certain ways from Waimea to Honoka. The only stations that catch are like the pop stations from Maui. And I was listening and, just kind of zoned out. But then I was listening and I was like, is that The Weeknd? I think that's The Weeknd, the artist. He did the Super Bowl a while back. I think that's The Weeknd. But I couldn't be sure because I realized all the people on the radio, they all sound the same. I suspect that has a lot to do with the fact that everything's auto-tuned so much and compressed so much and compressed again to be on the radio. So I expect that a lot of the processing takes away the character, so there's not everything's squeezed into such a, sausage of a waveform in the MP3 file that there's not a lot of room for character left. But also, if you just listen to a lot of new artists, a lot of them do sound the same, singing style and whatnot, because there's fads of how people sing. If you listen to all the kids on TikTok from year to year, there's a way that they sing that is sort of reflective of the time and what's hot and what everybody strives to do and what everybody thinks is this is the most beautiful sounding kind of thing. I'm sure back in the 70s, everybody wanted to sing like Stevie Nicks, right? And so that was the emulated sound. And there were more people that tried to sound like Stevie Nicks than just kind of did their own thing. I mean, not actually, but maybe the general sound over an average of maybe, just general musicians maybe leaned that way for that era, but they lean a different way nowadays. And yeah, it just kind of struck me that, I can't even tell if this is that artist from them singing. And, a voice and somebody singing should be the most signature thing because each of our voices has its own timbre. And granted, each individual instrument has its own timbre, but if you line up 100 Fender Stratocasters, they're all going to sound generally the same. Voices aren't necessarily like that. Like there's a lot of variation in just voices. So singing should be the most obvious way to hear an artist and to know who that is. I mean, if you hear Santana playing guitar, you know it's Santana because of how the guitar sounds. But there's not a lot of artists where you just know from listening to them because they're so distinct, right? Like, you know, Eric Johnson, and I'm sure some people would say Clapton, and Jeff Beck for sure. And then on ukulele, like I can usually tell when Jake is playing something or when I'm hearing Jake. Herb is really distinctive. Brittany might be the most distinctive, you know, of just kind of your virtuoso standard ukulele player. I think Brittany has done a really nice job of forging her own sound, especially with the way she plays vibrato, is really nice. But to me, that's comforting. Like hearing that somebody has a sound when they play, that's important to me. And that makes me feel connected to the music when I'm listening to it, is I can hear the artist behind the instrument because they play in a certain way and it sounds like them playing. It doesn't sound like just an ukulele or something generic. It's not generic because it has character that they have imparted to that sound and to that instrument. And so like emulation is important. And I know that I said Jake at the beginning of my list of ukulele players, and I think I can usually pick Jake out of a lineup, but it's harder because there's so many people who emulate him. Like with any instrument and kind of any lineage of teachers and, you know, legendary musicians and inspirations, people are always going to have people that they look up to, and they're going to learn everything that they have released, learn how to play it, do things just like them, and learn a lot from that process. But a lot of people don't get beyond that, and that's just what they do. So they sound just like that artist, maybe just with their own songs that they've written, but they sound just like Jake. And Jake is the predominant kind of figure who has so many clones at this point, just because of how famous he is and how iconic he is, but also in the fact that while an incredibly skilled player, his style isn't super hard to emulate. Like it's hard to emulate, but it's not super hard to emulate. Like I would say James Hill, like the only person I know of who can also do cherry picking is Tobias. That's it. Like I've never seen anybody else even come close, and anybody who attempts it always seems to fall really short. Of course, I'm out of touch. I don't, you know, go looking for that kind of stuff, or I'm super plugged in to know if somebody were to crack that code. But people haven't started sounding like James because James is so hard to sound like. But, you know, anybody with a Fishman pickup in their ukulele and who attacks the strings super hard and does strummy stuff, and then, you know, pick with a super hard attack, like you're going to sound kind of like Jake. So it's easier to swing that way. But the thing to remember is that simply because he was there first, that's Jake's character. Even if you do it perfectly, it's not your character. You just sound like Jake. So I guess what I realized when I was listening to the radio earlier is that so many people have a picture in their mind of like who they want to sound like or what they want to sound like. And they go towards that thing maybe without appreciating what they currently sound like. You know, it might not be great. You might not like how you're playing because you're like buzzing obvious notes and you can't remember the song, or you get flustered, or whatever your challenge is for yourself. Like those can be things that can be improved. But, you know, if you're at a point where you are specifically looking for a sound or a character, or I want to sound like Jake, like think about what your sound is. What do you sound like? Because when I listen to you play, I don't want to hear you trying to sound like Jake. I want to hear you, because that is the connection that the character of what you play, that's the character of what you play, is your connection to the instrument and how you touch the instrument, how you play the instrument. And to me, that's worth listening to. But if you're trying to sound like overly sterile or overly perfect or very much like a certain thing, then you start to lose that, because then the character becomes washed out, and I'm not sure, am I listening to Jake, right? Who are your influences that you're trying so hard to recreate? And granted, like, there are a lot of us who don't have a super signature character. Like, out of all the ukulele players, like, you could make a very short list of people who have a very signature sound, and then everybody else is just going to fall in somewhere on the bell curve of, not just being kind of a standard sounding player, either in the material that they play, how they play the ukulele, the songs that they choose to arrange and their arrangement style, like their touch in the music. It might just fall in the middle of the bell curve, and that's fine. We have, we need those players too. But if you have something cool, and even if it is kind of different, like, it's like a voice. Like, the first time for myself, like, I remember the first time I heard my own voice, like, on the answering machine, back when we had answering machines. Like, I called my folks' house. I was like, hey mom, can I spend the night over at Nick's house, or whatever it was? And then coming home and, like, her going through the old reel-to-reel cassette tape voice answering machine, like, erasing old stuff and listening to what is there. Like, I remember her feeling so uncomfortable, like, oh my gosh, is that how I actually sound? Like, I didn't like that at all. I'm super used to it now because I do a podcast. But hearing that character for the first time, the instinct is to turn away, like, oh, I hate that so much. I would rather sound like anybody else, right? If I sounded like my friend that I know what their voice sounds like outside of them, that would be much more comfortable than hearing my voice outside of me, which I don't perceive it in that way. So it sounds completely different from what you expect. And so I think it's a little bit similar with ukulele playing, in that what you hear coming out of your ukulele is never going to be exactly what you want, because you want it to sound like what somebody else plays. But you have to, at a certain point, accept that this is just how you play, and lean into the things that you do that makes the character of your playing have character. Like, that's what you offer. And short of, improving your technique so you can play notes cleanly and you can get around the fretboard to where you need to go, and improving your ear so if you can't remember what the next part of the song is, you can guess with your ear and get back onto track. Those kinds of things were like the actual functional playing of the instrument. If you can get those things smoothed out, beyond that, all there is your approach and, like, the things that give your playing that character. And so it's just a fine line, because there's so much to be learned from emulating, but then you also have to realize, like, okay, I've done that. I've studied a lot of that. Now it's time to take that and then internalize it. And now I'm going to spit out my own version of that. Whatever that informs my sound to become. Now I have that within me. I can, play with this little bit adjusted character now, but I'm not necessarily trying to always sound like that one specific thing I was studying for a while. You kind of become a conduit. And if you try to become a mirror, then it's a problem. Like, if you can be the inlet and the outlet of a pond of water, you're holding all that information that would be the water in the pond. And some of it's coming in and some of it's going out. Maybe the things that you don't want to emphasize or the things that you're improving are going out. And the things that you hold in the pond, it's so vast that if you were to, drop a little bit of salt water and fresh water, it would get diluted so much that you would never taste the salt water if you were to drink it. But if you become just a mirror and you're trying to bounce everything back, all that water that's coming in, you're trying to just push it back to where it came. Like, there's no room to hold anything that's going to sound like your own. There's no basin that could hold that water and be kind of the diluting factor to create a greater thing. But anyways, super interesting. And if you're already unsure whether you have a signature sound, probably don't let some pop radio producer record your song and then compress and auto-tune the crap out of it, because then you're definitely not going to sound like anything super unique, because it's going to sound generic just like every other song on the radio. But if you just get comfortable with maybe what your sound is, and you can find that out. What is your sound? You find that out by recording yourself and listening back to it and cringing and going, oh, did I really play that? That doesn't sound very good. And realizing that whether it sounds good or not, it's still like that's character, like that's you. If I listen to that, I'm hearing you, and that's what I want to hear. I want you to succeed and play, the notes well as best you can, and to remember the whole song and, articulate things in a beautiful way. But don't try and get away from what it is that makes your ukulele and your hands sound like you. Lean into that. All right. Well, thanks for being here. Once again, my name is Brad Bordessa. You're listening to the Live Ukulele podcast. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode when we get back to the new season 7 at the beginning of January. And also go check out some of the new stuff on Live Ukulele. There's the new version of the step-by-step picking book. There's also a baritone version of the step-by-step book now. Very exciting for baritone players. And if you want to become a member, that's a great way to get access to some exclusive content, support what I'm doing here, and you'll be seeing rock ukulele coming through your feed, hopefully sooner rather than later. I'd like to think that is a this month release, perhaps? Probably, hopefully. I think I'm going to do the songs separately, so the songs might be like every 2 weeks staggered on their release. So hopefully we'll see the first one drop by the end of November. No promises, no guarantees. Set your sights high and go from there. That's how I operate. Thank you to everybody who has listened in this season. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate being able to share this time with you folks. As always, especially in an AI bubble-powered world, personal connection and word of mouth is as important as ever. So if somebody asks you about a resource, consider recommending something from Live Ukulele, one of my lessons, ebooks, video courses, and, share the good news on your social media. That's appreciated as well. I'll see you next season. Until then, be well. Use your ukulele to share light into the world. Characterful light. Rainbows of colors, not just one color. That's boring. But let your character shine through. Malama pono. Ahui ho.